Hello, everyone, and welcome to our podcast. I'm Dani, and today Crate.com talks with Diane Nahabidian, the Executive Director of Helping Hands Monkey Helpers. If you haven't heard of it yet, Helping Hands' current mission is to provide innovative technologies and quality of life opportunities to those living with physical disabilities. Now, if you're new here to this podcast, remember to press subscribe on YouTube or in your podcast app. Hi, Diane, and welcome.
Well, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here today.
It's totally a pleasure for us to talk to you. I will say what I said before. I love your energy. We always do this chat, and I feel like this is going to be perfect. It's going to be awesome.
Great. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Well, let's begin learning more about you, about your story. You have a history, your personal story on working with nonprofit, with third sector. So tell us about it and tell us about you.
Well, I've had I hate to admit how many years I've been in the not-for-profit world, but I adore and love this profession. Even as a younger person, when I was doing undergraduate work and graduate work, I always said I wanted to be in the not-for-profit world because the non-for-profit organizations make a difference. We make an impact on the world around us, whether it's working in the disability arena or the arts or food insecurity. We're there on the ground making a difference. And disability means a great deal to me. I grew up in a home. My father had multiple sclerosis. Now, I grew up in a really loving, wonderful family, lively, loud. It was just a great family, but my father had multiple sclerosis. And when you grow up in a home where someone has a physical disability, it affects everything. And you see both the effects of the disability on the person who's dealing with it, but also the caregiver, which in my case was my mother. My parents, how they coped with it or what they did it. But I watched that my whole life until, both my parents were very aged and passed away. And I think that now, working at Helping Hands Monkey Helpers, I can see that when I'm working with the clients we have, and it means a great deal to me because I feel like I not totally understand everything, but I really want to make it. I want to make an impact because I saw so much of what happened in our home. And we have the opportunity with the technology that's out there to make a difference so that people living with any disability can go to work, go to school, get married, do whatever they want to do. So I feel like, it's come full circle from the time I was a little kid to now back to where we are at Helping Hands. But, my personal story going into the not-for-profits, and I do think that many of us who have gone into this field do it because we feel like we can make an impact in whatever discipline of the not-for-profit we went into.
Well, I gotta say that I love when those life stories sort of shape the way we move forward in life, right? And it's really inspiring to see someone that has lived with something, that's lived with the situation and said, I'm gonna work with this, I'm gonna work with helping people because it's important to me. So I'm really happy to hear your story today. Now, trying to know a bit more about the Helping Hands history. In today's intro, I used two words that I don't usually use, like current mission, because I try to give a hint to this history that we're about to talk. And I would say that you're still going through some significant changes in your structure, this new path to move forward, but it's still pretty groundbreaking, I think. So could you share like just brief tale about it, because it began in the 70s. So good luck making it short for me.
Okay, so Helping Hands started in 1979. And there was a woman who started the organization. She was working with paralyzed American veterans, and that's what the organization was called. And she decided that Capuchin monkeys would make great service animals. Now, my understanding is she looked at primates in general. Primates are very smart animals. Capuchin monkeys, New World monkeys, who are in the Amazon, are really smart monkeys, and they also have thumbs like we do. They're little, small, they're 5, 6 pound monkeys, but they're very smart and they could be trained. And so she trained one monkey and she paired it with a gentleman who had a spinal cord injury, and actually they were together for 27 years. And so that's how the organization started. And so through the 1980s, 1990s, and even the early part of the 2000s, the organization bred the Capuchin monkey and then trained them. And what they trained them for were specifically were tasks: turning a page, scratching noses, pushing glasses, things that if you don't have mobility in your hands or your arms, if you're a quadriplegic and you can't move, a monkey could do for you. Could sit on the table of a wheelchair, and when you rolled your wheelchair, could turn a light on, that kind of thing. However, many things have changed in these last 40 years. The Americans with Disabilities Act only recognizes dogs and miniature horses as service animals. So most people who have service animals now have a dog. Most states do not allow primates in the home environment. They're considered exotic animals. So primates should either, some of them are in zoos, obviously, or they should stay in the wild where they are in their natural habitat. But technology is at such a level that a lot of it has dual use. So the Alexa, if you say, Alexa, turn my lights on, Alexa, open my door, or ring.com, who's at the door, you don't need a monkey to do these things. The monkey could be a companion, but if you want to go back to school, if you want to go back to work, if you are working at home, the monkey's not going to do those things. So we are looking at both robotics and virtual reality. Robotics is a very expensive proposition, but it does a lot of things. And if you start to look at some of the companies out there, you can see, a robotic arm attached to your wheelchair might be able to pick things up off the floor. It might be able to put your shoes on, all sorts of different things. Virtual reality. Now, virtual reality is just amazing. It can be used in gaming, which isn't so bad. I mean, people want to play games. You can become an avatar and with your best friend go, while you're sitting at home, go take a trip to, I don't know, Paris. So we're looking at all of that because a lot of times people are not able to go anywhere. But wouldn't it be nice to climb the Himalayas no matter who you are? You could be 90, you could be 18, it doesn't matter. So we're looking at all those technologies to see how it can help folks with mobility disabilities. And our age range is 18 to 118. So we are really in the middle of this transformation. It's very exciting though, but we are taking care of the monkeys who we still have. They've got the best retirement ever. We still have 9 that are in service, but the others we have some that are in special care homes. They may have some medical needs, and we have families that are taking care of them. And then we have 56 in what we call a monkey living center that are in the building where our offices are. And they play and eat and sleep and get taken care of.
This is a retirement I would like.
The retirement we all want. We all want that retirement.
Yeah, but obviously, I think we are talking here about major changes, especially ones that do not depend on your will to just come and happen, right? So this is a transition that's gonna take time. And I honestly want to give you a lot of praise on this because it takes vision to first see the possibility of working with monkeys. Let's begin there. I think it's very common sense to say, okay, dogs and maybe cats, and horses, they are helpful, they can actually do this, this mental, let's say, and physical therapy, but it was very visionary. And now to do this change, it's really incredible. Could we talk a little bit more about that? I don't know if you have like projects in progress, like really happening. And I love when you talk about VR because it's not just about physical health, right? It's mental health as well. So if you can just try to get some more ideas of what's going on right now, I would love to.
Okay, so well, one of the things that we have to remember as we put these projects together is we've got to keep everybody in mind. So a disability, and I want to sort of stress this, a disability could affect anybody. There's no, socioeconomic level, and the other thing is, so, a spinal cord injury might result in somebody's driving too fast, and so it might be a younger person, but people come into disabilities as they get older. So there's that whole population too. So we're trying to keep that in mind that as we shape these projects, virtual reality at the beginning may be for some younger folks, robotics may be older. So that's how we're trying to shape the projects. So we are trying to work with universities and research organizations, and then individuals. So we have one project that we're working with one of the universities in Boston, where we've got a couple, a husband and wife. The husband, and they're a little older. The husband has multiple sclerosis. The wife is the primary caregiver. The university has a lab where they're looking at a number of different robotics, and they've using a robotic arm, and the engineer is augmenting the arm. He's attaching the arm to the wheelchair, and the gentleman with the MS is manipulating the arm. But what he's saying to the engineer is, well, when I manipulate it, the arm works for me when I do this, but it doesn't work for me when I do that. And so a lot of this is we're getting input from the person living with the disability, because it's great if you make technology, but it's not great if you make technology that doesn't work for the person who needs it, which does happen. And so that's the other thing we're keeping in mind. It's great to make technology, but it's not a good idea to make it if the person with the spinal cord injury who really needs something has not had any input. So that's the other thing. So that's one of the projects we're looking. We're hoping to be part of a robotics project with a company, another university, and us, where we look at a robotic that for somebody who can't use their hands, that can help them when they eat. We're waiting to see if all the funding comes through. Funding, that's the name of the game for us. On the virtual reality side, we're looking at accessibility, because a lot of times people they know how to play the game, but they can't physically do it. Because now I'm not an expert on virtual reality games, I've played them. You have a hand control that goes like this. So if you look at the pictures or you watch somebody, and you physically have to pick up the Oculus and put it on your head. Well, if you can't do that, you can't play. So we're trying to build a project around that. And we have a young man who is one of our clients who wants to work with us to say, okay, I can play the game, but I can't access the game. So I'm going to give you advice on the things I can do. So those are the types of projects we're building, because we take it for granted if we can move that I can put the headset on, or I can, it's like when I use my computer, I take it for granted that my fingers are going across the keyboard. Well, what if they can't? And that's those are two of the big projects we're looking at, or three that we're looking at. And so we've set up a robotics advisory committee and a virtual reality committee, and they're advising us on other projects and what to look at. I think the biggest thing we are are doing and that we're keeping in mind is all this technology is great as long as the person who has to use it and wants to use it is there to advise us um, as we put the technology together. And so what it's boiling down to is we're taking care of our monkeys over here and we're moving into the technology. So we're sort of operating as two different things. And, you know, but the mission remains the same, which is working and assisting people who are living with physical disabilities.
Oh, this is amazing, and I'm in awe about these initiatives. I loved it, and it's so much true what to say that we take for granted the little things, right? We don't stop to think how we cannot live without that. Everything is conceived in the world. People that have full control of their movements. It's insane. So I'm really happy to see that you are moving towards that, and the field is like immense to grow, right?
It's immense to grow. I think what's overwhelming is the number of people that need to be served, not in the United States, in North and South America, just around the world. And it's a combination of, you know, everyday accidents. And if I just look, so we're in Boston, Massachusetts. If I just look at the United States, you know, the top 3 reasons in just spinal cord injury, you know, could be an accident, could be violence, it could be diving. Then you couple that with, you know, debilitating illnesses, and then add on to that people getting older. It gets bigger and bigger. And I think sometimes people forget. I mean, nobody wants to think about, oh goodness, I'm going to be 75, I'm going to be 80. Gee whiz, maybe I'll be disabled. Nobody wants to think that way. We all are healthy, and but we want to be there so you can come to us if something happens, or your, you know, your spouse, your lover, your sister, somebody can call us like they did when they needed the monkey and say, we need some help. But we also want to make sure we're working in an area where the technology is available and it's useful for what you need. And it may have dual use. So dual use meaning when we text, I think was originally developed for folks who are deaf and hearing impaired. Well, every one of us is, doesn't matter. I mean, my goodness, I text with my husband in the next room. Hey, what do you want for dinner? I mean, you know. So I think, and I think, you know, that's what we have to keep in mind. But the transformation of the organization is exciting. And I think it's exciting for our board who is leading us through this. You know, I think a lot of them were, you know, were there for the monkey, and now they're there as we transform because they're committed to this. So it is a very exciting process.
This is awesome. Honestly, I'm trying to come up with a different word than awesome, but I can't. I'm just so hyped about it. And it's exciting for us talking about that too. And then I need to ask you, because we're talking here about this Herculean job, right? As we just realized, how can us people talking about this, people listening to this podcast, help you achieve this dream, help you keep going? What is the best way?
Well, there are a couple of things. We're always looking for collaborators, for people who are in virtual reality, robotics, who say, gee, maybe it would be interesting to work with them or to find out what they're doing, because we're always interested. You know, even people who are just at the beginning of their process of looking at technology that might be appropriate for the disability arena. Now we're in obviously it's physical disabilities, but we're always looking for collaborators. And I reach out, you know, I'm always combing the web for new folks. And then we're always looking for somebody who wants to support us monetarily. I mean, I'm not going to lie and say, gee, no, we're all set. That is a huge part of what we need, because this transformation and working in this arena needs support. So, and I think I understand clearly that people want to see what we're doing, and so if somebody wants to call or write to Helping Hands, I would be happy to explain in detail what we're doing. But those are the two ways, monetarily or a collaboration, I think are really what we're looking for.
Well, yeah, I'm gonna add my voice here and strongly ask people to go to your website, that is monkeyhelpers.org. In there, you can get more information. You can also email Diane if you want to. You can get
email me.
Yeah, you can see the monkeys on the website. I mean, that's priceless. But I'm honestly also going to encourage people to donate. I think that one of the purposes of this podcast is to get people in touch with nonprofits that they relate to. And if you're listening to this right now and you relate to that, get in touch, see how can you help. It's little that helps us go further, right? So that's it. So thank you so much, Diane. I loved it. I love this talk. It was a wonderful and great talk.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
And for everybody listening, also, thank you so much. And remember, if you enjoyed this episode, press subscribe on YouTube or your podcast app, because that shows the algorithms that this is an important conversation, and we can tell more people about the importance of the Helping Hands monkey helpers.